Hi students, welcome to Bio 100. This is just a little introductory video that I do just in case you missed the first day of class, if you add the class late. And so this is a little bit about me. If you want to pause and read about it, great. If not, let's move on. My name's Dr. Jensen. As you can see in the picture, I have 4 boys. My oldest is about to go on a mission. My youngest is 9. I'm a busy person all around, but I'm so excited to be here and to be back in person. Okay, so really quickly, I'd like to go through a little bit of learning theory. So I'm a discipline-based education researcher, which means I'm a biologist by trade, but I do research on how students best learn biology. And so I know a little bit about this, and I've prepared some materials that I'll show you later on Canvas that'll help you study and learn more efficiently. But for now, I'd like to just introduce you to a couple of things about learning that I think are really important. So this one here, you can actually do this at home if you get a little compact or any kind of mirror and you stick it up kind of at your forehead and then try to make shapes on a piece of paper, write your name on a piece of paper, but without looking down at the paper, only looking at the mirror. So if you want to pause and take a minute to do that, it's really kind of fun. But we'll move on. And I ask students, if I were to give you this slide prior to you doing this activity, would it have made it easier? Because students have a really hard time doing this, and I'm sure you had a really hard time doing it if you tried it too. And it turns out giving you this slide beforehand really doesn't change how hard it is. It's still hard when you try to do it again. And that has a lot to do with how your brain works. It does not have to do with the fact that you don't believe me or that PowerPoint is ineffective, although that's debatable. It has more to do with how your brain works. So let me just explain a couple of things about learning. It's dynamic. Your brain has a lot in it that you've already come to the classroom with, and those neural connections need to be modified and changed in some cases. So assimilation is the process where you learn something for the very first time, so you're making those initial neural connections and there's really nothing there that you have to change. And it's easier. This is new information. Whereas accommodation is when we have to sort of change what we previously thought, make new connections, that kind of thing, and that's a lot harder. And so I always ask students, do you think you are coming into biology with prior conceptions? Well, yeah, if you've ever even been outside, of course you have prior conceptions. And so we have to have you experience biology in order to replace those conceptions, and that requires what we call cognitive conflict, which means that you experience something that goes against what you previously thought. So rather than me just telling you that what you're thinking is wrong, because that won't work, just like writing in a mirror telling you how to do it doesn't work. You have to actually experience it, practice it, etc. And so that's why we teach this class the way that we do. One other really cool thing I just want to show you, I'm going to have you listen to this video. This is my son from a long, long time ago.
And all 3 guys wouldn't help him, and when one came, he took the man and put him in his truck and started driving away. And then he woke up in a bed. He was nice and warm, and he had a couple bruises and cuts, and he felt really bad, but he was glad that the man helped him.
Okay, so that's my son retelling the story of the Good Samaritan. So, I don't know if you noticed in there, but the Good Samaritan had a truck and he drove the guy to somewhere. And so this is an example of how your brain fills in holes. So it turns out that when you learn things, sometimes you miss a detail or two. And in the case of this story, that detail is not in the scriptures. It doesn't tell us how the man got the injured guy back to the inn. And so your brain has a tendency to put in information, whatever that information is, whatever it makes sense to you, and oftentimes that information is wrong. And so it becomes very important that when you study, that you actually say things out loud, that you say them especially to another person, but you could even do it to the wall. But research has shown that if you say things out loud, you're more likely to catch these errors or gaps in your understanding and not fill them in with garbage. So I strongly encourage you to find a study partner. And even if that study partner is your mom or your roommate or girlfriend, boyfriend, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, if they're in the class, it's more effective, but even if they're not, saying it out loud to another person is one of the most important study tips I can give you. And for other study tips, you can watch my How to Study video and things that I post online. So let's go through course structure. Required supplies, there is a student packet. They have it available in the bookstore for purchase, but you can also download the electronic copy that I've got on Canvas and either print it yourself or just use it electronically, but you will need to have access to it in every class. You won't be turning it in, but it has step-by-step directions and you'll be lost if you don't have a copy of it in front of you. And I strongly recommend you have a copy that you can write on, either digitally or actually write on. You will also need a smart device. We record attendance, we take some quizzes and do some things where you just need access to the internet while you're in class. So a phone will do just fine, but a laptop is great too. And then we sometimes write things down and share it with people, so a pencil and some scratch paper with you would be helpful. The second thing that's just recommended is if you'd like a textbook, I have recommended the Campbell's Essential Biology textbook, 7th edition or greater. And I've got suggested textbook readings for you that I will show you on Canvas, but it's not required. It's just if you need a different perspective or a little more information that you just didn't quite get it in class, that's the textbook that I recommend. And you can get it used. It's really cheap actually used. Okay, so the structure of this course, we're going to use a flipped class format, which hopefully you've heard of at this point. But the idea is, in a traditional approach, you would generally come to class and learn the actual material, and then you'd have some kind of homework assignment where you'd go through the material and practice using it in novel situations. And it turns out research shows that if you only learn the content in one situation, it tends to be contextually specified, meaning that you can't seem to apply it to other situations. So that's why we want to do this concept application, to help you broaden your understanding of the concept. In a flipped approach, it's the same two processes. We've just backed it up so that you do your content attainment before you come to class, and then during class we do the application. And so what that means is that you need to come prepared to class, and it's very important, and you'll learn very quickly the first couple of class periods that if you don't do the content attainment activity before class, you're going to be just utterly lost and no help to your group mates. I also use the 5E learning cycle. What this means is that it's very exploratory. So based on the things we learned about from the mirror activity, we really need to have you experience the material instead of just being lectured to. So I rarely actually stand in front of the class and lecture. We do more of a interactive, student-centered approach. And so at home, you're going to engage, explore, and explain the topic. So you'll do this through a Canvas activity that I'll show you how to access, and it'll get you excited about some kind of biological phenomenon, and then you're going to walk through several questions that will help you build your own understanding and experience the material, and then I'll introduce some terms and clarify a little bit of content. When you come to class, that's when we'll apply that content to a novel situation and better increase your conceptual understanding, and then evaluate is the testing part that we don't love, but is definitely necessary for learning. So what does this look like in this class? Well, before class on Canvas, you will access an assignment where you do engage, explore, explain. You can also do textbook readings if you feel like you need a little more information. Then you'll come to class and we'll take a quick quiz. That quiz will be done with partners and anyone sitting around you. It's not meant to penalize you, but it is meant to see how much you learned from the pre-class activities and make sure you are prepared. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. We also take attendance just because the in-class portion of this course is probably the most important part for your learning. And so I want to make sure you are there. And I'll tell you how the points break down for that as well. And then you also have TAs that will introduce themselves on the first day who can help you through the material if you need. And so you'll do that each day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, etc., until the end of the unit. And then at the end of the unit, we will have one class period that is our science literacy and review day. So you won't learn any new material on that day. There won't be a quiz on that day, but we do want you to come and we'll practice a little bit of science literacy, and then we'll review for the upcoming test. And then you'll go and take the exam online. So all of the unit exams are available online. They are open book, open note, but timed. Okay, and so I'll show you where those are on Canvas. When you take the exam, let's say you get an 87%. Well, then every week, all of the TAs in the class, so that's from both sections, they will hold a scheduled exam review session. If you attend that exam review and you review the questions you got wrong, you automatically get 5 percentage points back on your exam. So I would strongly recommend that you do that on every exam, except the 5th exam where we won't have time to do that. I also allow you to drop one of the exams. So if you just have a bad day or you miss it, just don't even sweat it. So this is how the point breakdown is for the class. We do periodically do research surveys. I'll show you some of those in a minute. Some of them are worth credit, some of them are worth extra credit. The ones that are worth credit are going to be 5% of your grade. The before class activities, the things you do on Canvas, are 20% of your grade, and they're really just graded for completion. It's really exploratory. There's not a right or wrong answer necessarily because you haven't learned the material yet. And so we just recommend that you do the best you can. You guys can definitely work in groups on that. You can work with the TA on that, and we just grade you for your effort. Then you come to class, 10% for your Explore quiz, and then 25% for just clicking that you were there for class. That's how important I feel the Elaborate materials are for your learning. 20% for exams and 20% for the final. So what this means is that 50% of your grade is just for participating in learning activities. So you automatically have 50% of your points if you'll just participate in what I've prepared for you to learn the material. And then the other 50% is assessment to make sure you're really internalizing what we're talking about in class. Okay, so now that we've talked about the course structure, the required supplies, we're going to go ahead and visit Canvas and I'll show you around the class. So here's a look at Canvas. To get to Canvas, you go to byu.instructure. Okay, so here's a look at Canvas. To get to Canvas, you're going to go to byu.instructure.com, or you can go to Learning Suite and it will link you to Canvas. So this is, we use Canvas instead of Learning Suite. And this is our course. Now you're looking at it in instructor view because not everything is available yet. So I'm going to show it to you this way. Yours will look almost identical to this. You just won't have some of these things that have the crossed out eyeballs on them. You won't see those. All right, so the most important thing you could click on is this first one here, the learning outcomes. And I'm going to show you this, hopefully it will pull up. You're going to download it and like have this as your main go-to for this class. It's going to tell you what you're expected to do be able to do for every class period. So if you're wondering, is there a study guide for this class? Yes, this is the study guide. It looks like it's not going to pull up a preview. But if you take a look at that, it's going to tell you everything you need to do every day of class. Now, here's a trick for Canvas. Don't ever click on any of these other things. Always just click home and don't use the breadcrumbs because they suck. Anyway, go back to home every time. Okay, so home is the main page for our class. If you try to access assignments from like over here in the calendar view, or it'll take you to the gradebook instead of the assignment, it's really odd. So always access things from the home page, so from home. Okay, so that's the learning outcomes, the instructor information, and TA bios and office hours. You should access these if you want to know when to meet with the TA, when the exam reviews are. They will also be holding weekly reviews, so if you just need a review of the materials, they'll be available for that, and they have open office hours. So all that information is under this tab. Here is the student packet. So again, you can download it as a PDF and use it on your electronic device, or you can go purchase it from the bookstore. It's the same cost as if you were to print it yourself. So either way, you can print it yourself, you can buy it from the bookstore. This is the suggested textbook readings. They're loose, but hopefully they fit mostly with what we're doing in class. Again, the textbook is just for additional information if you're struggling with some of the content. This critical help for success in this course, this is the video I'm making right now, so obviously it's not updated yet, but it will be. So if you ever forget how the class works, just go here. This is my how to study video. Please view that. This is a cool module that you can walk through that will help you analyze the way in which you study and learn some better and more effective study strategies. Totally optional, but if you want, you should go through that. This is my FAQ document. I have gathered this over years and years of teaching this class and the questions that I get. And so if you're looking for answers for certain questions, before you email me, you might just consider going through the FAQs. And I'm sorry if some of them are snarky. Sometimes I get the same question over and over again. So anyway, I hope it makes sense, but go ahead and take a look at that. All right, so these are your pre-class assignments. So this is what you're going to complete each day before you come to class. This first little part I want to talk about for just a minute. Your very first assignment prior to anything else you do is to take this test called the pre-LCTSR. This is a test of your scientific reasoning abilities, and it turns out in my research, like I said, I do discipline-based education research. I always include the LCTSR as a covariate meaning that I ask students to take this test and I use it to control for group differences. That's really all it's for. However, in every research study I've ever done, it is the #1 and largest predictor of your performance in the class. So it turns out that your scientific reasoning ability is necessary to pass this class to do well. You can pass the class, but to do well, you really need some really good scientific reasoning skills, and this test will test those. So I would strongly encourage you to take this test without looking things up. There's no way to study for it. It's just looking at where you currently are in your scientific reasoning ability. And it turns out that your age is necessary, like we go through some development in our brain, but it's not sufficient to push you through these reasoning skills. So some of you may have not had the experiences necessary, especially in Bio 100, having not maybe had a propensity towards the biology and life sciences in high school perhaps. You may not have experienced the things you need to experience to help you develop these skills. Lucky for you, I've spent a lot of time researching this, and I've created what I call the BEST app. It's a program created by actually a bunch of students that work in my lab that helps you increase your scientific reasoning ability. We've looked at this and done research on it. We can increase your reasoning ability, and it usually corresponds to around an 8% jump in your grade in the class or more. Okay, so I would encourage you to take this, like I said, just cold turkey, take it and see how you do. Try your best. If you score, and it says it here, if you score less than 20, or more importantly, if you score less than 14, those are some critical cutoffs that I can tell you about later if you're interested. This indicates that you may be deficient in some of these reasoning skills, and I would strongly encourage you to spend some time on the BEST app. It is an application that we've created with tutorials and practice questions to help you increase your skills. And if you click on that, it'll have you log into the free Canvas site. So you'll maybe need to make an account. And then you can access this, and it will hopefully increase your scientific reasoning skills and set you up for better success in this class. Again, totally optional to do the BEST app, but I would strongly encourage you to do it. Okay, that being said, here are the daily activities. So before day 2, the next time we meet, you should do day 2 testing termites. And if you click on it, it's set up as a quiz, but it's got unlimited attempts. So it's not really a quiz, it's just the best way to set it up in Canvas. And so you'll look, I'll just give you a preview of this one. It might have you look at some videos and then have you answer some questions. Obviously, don't type something like that because the TAs will be grading these for effort. Okay. Anyway, so you're going to go through, watch some videos, answer some questions, do some matching, whatever, and then you submit the quiz. Once you submit it, often it gives you answers. It is totally not cheating. I totally want you to do this, to go back and do it again and put in the answers I gave you. Obviously, the free response ones won't have answers, but you can definitely take these as many times as you want to get 100%. You can go talk to a TA, you can work on them together, as long as you're not cheating. In other words, you shouldn't do it and then give the answers to somebody else, obviously. Okay, so that's what these are for. Again, I'm going to click on home. Those are all your pre-class activities. On the days that we have the review session, there will not be a pre-class activity, so that's where those are. The other thing is, this is our in-class quizzes and attendance. So every day when you come into class, you're going to open up the quiz. And the quiz has 2 attempts. So the first attempt, I'd like you to try it on your own and see what you think. And then once you answer, it will tell you which ones you got wrong, but it won't tell you what the right answer is. And then you can work with a partner and take it again. And it will keep your highest score. So I really don't care. It should be a group effort. I'm just thinking if you take it once on your own, that's actually really helpful for your learning. And then you'll open up the attendance and answer the one secret question that assesses whether you're actually in class or not. Okay, and that gives you that 25% credit right there. Here are your exams. Again, they're not posted yet because I'm still working on them, but the exams are open book, open note, not open neighbor, but open book, open note, but they are timed so that you don't look up everything, that you should be prepared for them. And then the final exam will be in the testing center during final exam week. I think that that's everything you need to know for success in this course. Obviously, this may be subject to change if things happen, especially if things happen with COVID. But for now, I'm thinking this is what the course looks like, and I wish you the best of luck. I'm so excited to have you in my class. I'm so excited to work with you face to face. I really love biology. I hope that everybody feels welcome in my class. And if you have any further questions, please check the syllabus out. You can watch this video again. And let's get started. I'm excited.